Partner, it wasn't an easy life being a cowboy. You started young. A cowboy was just that, a boy who looked after cows. Sometimes you finished young, too. Why, Billy the Kid hadn't been shaven very long when Sheriff Pat Garrett gunned him down. And cow punching was dangerous work, even if you weren't a gunslinger, too. During the annual cattle drives from Texas north to Wyoming, Kansas, and the Dakotas, cowboys rode herd on 3,000 or 4,000 longhorn cattle who were kind of dumb and mean, easily spooked by wolves and lightning storms, and those sharp horns could sweep 6 feet or more. But the cowboys soon learned that these wild range cows could be kept calm and happy and moving along in one bunch by hearing the music of a cowboy voice in trail songs like Get Along, Little Dogie.
As I was a-walking one morning for pleasure, I spied a cow-puncher a-riding along. His hat was throwed back and his spurs were a-jingling as he approached me, a-singing this song. Whoopee-tie-I-O, get along, little dogies, it's your misfortune and none of my own. Whoopee-tie-I-O, get along, little dogies, for you know Wyoming will be your new home. Early in the springtime, we'll round up the dogies, slap on their brands and bob off their tails. Round up our horses, load up the chuck wagon, and throw those dogies upon the trail. Whoopee-tie-I-O, get along, little dogies, it's your misfortune and none of my own. Whoopee-tie-I-O, get along, little dogies, for you know Wyoming will be your new home. It's whooping and yelling and driving the dogies. Oh, how I wish you would go on. It's whooping and punching and go on, little dogies, for you know Wyoming will be your new home. Whoopee-tie-I-O, get along, little dogies, it's your misfortune and none of my own. Whoopee-tie-I-O, get along, little dogies, for you know Wyoming will be your new home. Yep! Get along, dogies. Keep 'em moving there. Woo! Get along, dogies. Whoop, whoop.
Does all that yipping remind you of something? Well, if you've ever seen any Civil War movies, it should. It's the old rebel yell, brought out to the prairies by hundreds and thousands of Southern veterans defeated in war and gone west to seek their fortunes. All they had was a horse, and the clothes they wore from the Confederate Army, and a 6-gun. And they used music when they met each other on the lonely plains, too. Used to trade songs and lyrics with each other, and got in just a little man-to-man bragging, too, when they sang to each other over a campfire at night, as you'll hear in the Lone Star Trail.
I'm bound to follow the longhorn cows until I am too old. It's well I work for wages, boys, I get my pay and go. My bosses, they all like me well, they say I'm hard to beat. Because I give 'em a bold standoff, they know I've got the cheek. Singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yay, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yay. I am a Texas cowboy and I do ride the range. My trade is cinches and saddles and ropes and bridle reins, with Stetson hat and jingling spurs and leather up to the knees. Graybacks as big as chili beans and fighting like hell with fleas. Singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yay, yippee-yay, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yay. And if I had a little stake, I soon would married be. but another weekend I must go. The boss said so today. My girl must cheer up, courage and choose some other one, for I am bound to follow the Lone Star Trail until I'm done. Singing Kaya, yippee, yippee, yay. It almost breaks my heart for me to have to go away and leave my own little darling, my sweetheart so far away. But when I'm out on the Lone Star Trail, often I'll think of thee, of my own dear girl, darling one, the one I'd like to see. Singing Kaya, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay. Singing Kaya, yippee, yippee, yay. Singing Kaya, yippee, yippee, yay.
Of course, a cowpuncher was just a pedestrian without his horse. Most Western horses were the descendants of Mustangs, the wild horses that had slipped away from the Spanish conquistadors back in the days of Cortez and De Soto and the search for the cities of gold the Spaniards thought they'd find in the Southwest. By the time the cowboys found them and broke them, these horses were brave, highly intelligent animals that could ride like the wind for short distances. And the cowboys sang to them and about them in songs like Goodbye, Old Paint, which we hear now.
My foot in the stirrup, my pony won't stand. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a-leaving Cheyenne. I'm a-leaving Cheyenne. I'm hot for Montana. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a-leaving Cheyenne. I'm a-riding old paint, I'm a-leading old Dan. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a-leaving Cheyenne. With my feet in the stirrups, my bridle in my hand. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a-leaving Cheyenne. Old Paint's a good pony, he paces when he can. Goodbye, little Annie, I'm off for Cheyenne. Oh, hitch up your horses and feed 'em some hay, and seat yourself by me as long as you stay. My horses ain't hungry, they won't eat your hay. My wagon is loaded and rolling away. I'm a-riding old Paint, I'm a-leading old Dan. I'm a-going to Montana to throw a hula hand. Oh, whiskey and beer, they are nothing to me. Goodbye, old Paint, I'm a-leaving Cheyenne. They killed my old dad, now they can try me. Goodbye, old Paint, I'm a-leaving Cheyenne. Goodbye, old Paint, I'm a-leaving Cheyenne.
Cowboys had to depend on their horses to stop stampeding cattle, which they did by galloping to the head of the charging frantic herd and then racing straight on toward the head cattle. And if that didn't work, they depended on their horses to get out of there pronto. These stampedes were frequent and scary. Why, one cowboy recalled that during one stampede, his trail boss got so scared he climbed up a tree and tried to pull his pony up with him. The song called the Old Chisolm Trail tells the story of the dangers of stampedes and other hazards of a long cattle drive.
Come along, boys, and listen to my tale. I'll tell you of my troubles on the old Chisolm Trail. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay. Tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. I started up the trail October 23rd. I started up the trail with the two you heard. Yay, yippee, yay. Tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. Oh, a $10 horse and a $40 saddle, and I'm going to a punch of them Texas cattle with the ki-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. I woke up one morning on the old Chisolm Trail, rope in my hand and a cow by the tail. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. I'm up in the morning before daylight, and afore I sleep the moon shines bright. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. Old Ben Bolt was the blame good boss, but he'd go to see the girls on a sore-back horse. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. My horse throwed me off at the creek called Mud. My horse throwed me off round the two you heard. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. Last time I saw him, he was going across the level, a-kicking up his heels and running like the devil. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. No chaps and no slicker, and it's pouring down rain, and I swear that I'll never night hurt again. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. Cripple my horse and I don't know how, roping at the horns of a two-you cow. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. Feet in the stirrups and seat in the saddle, I hung and I rattled in longhorn cattle. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay. Come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie-yi, yippee, yippee, yay.
And the dangers of the trail, what with cattle, wild animals, sickness, Indians, and even the accidental fall when your pony stepped into a prairie dog hole, were real. No one knows how many cowboys died to get those 12 million longhorns north to the railroad centers during the days of the great cattle drives. But surely a good many of them were left behind to push up prairie grass, whether they wanted to or not.
Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. These words came low and mournfully from the pallid lips of a youth who lay on his dying bed at the close of a day. He had wailed in pain till o'er his brow death's shadows fast were gathering now. He thought of his home and his loved ones nigh as the cowboys gathered to watch him die. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie where the wild coyotes will howl over me in a narrow grave just 6 by 3. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. In fancy I listen to the well-known words of the free wild winds and the song of the birds. I think of home and the cottage in the bower and the scenes I loved in my childhood's hour. It matters not, I've oft been told, where the body lies when the heart grows cold. Yet grant, oh grant, this wish to me. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie.
If a cowboy was lucky, he could quit cattle punching after a while and go live in town or back to a little ranch of his own with the gal I left behind me, as we hear in this lonesome, hopeful cowboy song that speaks of the hazards of the cattle drive, for which the cowboy is paid maybe $100.
I struck the trail in '79, the herd strung out behind me. As I jogged along, my mind ran back to the gal I left behind me. That sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. That sweet little gal, the true little gal, the gal I left behind me. If ever I get off the trail, the Indians, they don't find me, I'll make my way straight back again to the gal I left behind me. That sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. That sweet little gal, the true little gal, the gal I left behind me. When the night was dark and the cattle run, with the boys coming on behind me, my mind run back at my pistol's crack to the gal I left behind me. That sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. That sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. The wind did blow, the rain did flow, the hail did fall and blind me. I thought of that gal, that sweet little gal, the gal I left behind me. That sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. That sweet little gal, that true little gal, the gal I left behind me. The gal I left behind me. The gal I left behind me. The gal I left behind me.
Of course, not every Western boy was content with the hard work of cattle driving. And Billy the Kid, for example, cut the first notch on his pistol grip when he was 12 years old, and then went on to make a living as a professional gunman. But his time was short. He'd already claimed 21 victims when Sheriff Pat Garrett, whom Billy wanted for his 22nd deadly notch, plugged him permanent. Listen to the story of Billy the Kid.
I'll sing you a true song of Billy the Kid. I'll sing of the desperate deeds that he did way out in New Mexico long, long ago, when a man's only chance was his own 44. When Billy the Kid was a very young lad, in the old Silver City he went to the bad, way out in the west with a gun in his hand. At the age of 12 years he had killed his first man. Fair Mexican maidens play guitars and sing a song about Billy, their boy bandit king. How ere his young manhood had reached its sad end, he had a notch on his pistol for 21 men. 'Twas on the same night when poor Billy died, he said to his friends, I'm not satisfied. There are 21 men I'll put bullets through, and Sheriff Pat Garrett must make 22. Now this is how Billy the Kid met his fate. The bright moon was shining, the hour was late. Shot down by Pat Garrett, who once was his friend. The young outlaw's life had now come to its end. There's many a man with a face fine and fair who starts out in life with a chance to be square. But just like poor Billy, he wanders astray and loses his life in the very same way.
Now, naturally, with hair-trigger gunmen like Billy the Kid around, other people got a mite fast on the draw, too. One of them was Roy Bean of Texas, who was a lawyer, a teacher, a barber, and the hanging judge who said he was the law west of the Pecos. Here's the story of Roy Bean.
Cowboys, come and hear the story of Roy Bean in all his glory. All the law west of the Pecos read his sign. We must let our ponies take us to a town on lower Pecos, where the high bridge spans the canyon thin and fine. He was born one day in Toyah, where he learned to be a lawyer, a teacher, and a barber, and the mayor. He was cook and old shoe mender, sometimes preacher and bartender, and it cost 2 bits to have him cut your hair. He was right smart of a hustler and considerable a rustler, and at mixing up an eggnog he was grand. He was clever, he was merry, he could drink a Tom and Jerry, on occasion at a roundup took a hand. Well, a dude, he slammed the table just as hard as he was able. The price of whiskey was too high, he swore. Said Roy Bean, for all your fussin' and your most outrageous cussin', you are fined the other dollar by the law. Said Roy Bean, you'll learn a lesson, for you have a Smith & Wesson, and to carry implements of war is wrong. $40 I will fine you, for we couldn't well confine you, as already you've been laying around too long. Now you boys have heard the story of Roy Bean in all his glory. He's the man who was the justice and the law. He was handy with his hooks, he was ornery in his looks, and just now I ain't gonna tell you more.
If you wanted to live, it was a good idea to stay out of Judge Roy Bean's courtroom. But as long as so many rifles and 6 guns were around, there were other ways to get shot out west, too. The cowboys lived with their guns strapped on. In fact, they affectionately called the Colt 6-gun the equalizer, because it made a small man the equal of a big man. But it led to a lot of ambushes and bushwhacking, as Sam Bass and Jesse James learned. Sam Bass was shot to death with a Winchester repeating rifle, as this song says.
Sam Bass was born in Indiana, it was his native home. And at the age of 17, young Sam began to roam. He first came out to Texas, a cowboy for to be, a kinder-hearted fella you'll seldom ever see. Sam used to deal in race stock, one called the Denton mare. He matched her in scrub races and took her to the fair. He used to coin the money, spent it just as free. He always drank good whiskey wherever he might be. Sam had 4 companions, 4 bold and daring lads. They were Richardson, Jackson, Joe Collins, and Old Dad. 4 more bold and daring cowboys the Rangers never knew. They whipped the Texas Rangers and ran the boys in blue. Sam met his fate at Round Rock, July the 21st. They pierced poor Sam with rifle balls and emptied out his purse. Poor Sam, he is a corpse, 6 foot under clay, and Jackson's in the bushes trying to get away. So he sold out Sam and Barnes and left their friends to mourn. Oh, what a scorching Jim will get when Gabriel blows his horn. Perhaps he's got to heaven, there's none of us can say. But if I'm right in my surmise, he's gone the other way.
Jesse James was another hero of the frontier. He wasn't strictly a cowboy, and people still argue whether he was a bad man at all. But he and his brother Frank sure didn't like railroads, which they held up again and again. And when they weren't robbing railroad trains of their strong boxes, they weren't above cracking a bank or two. Jesse was finally gunned down in his own living room by a friend while he was hanging a picture. which was another aspect of the violent, lawless life of the Old West, where few people cared to turn their backs on anyone else. Here's the story of what happened to Jesse James.
Jesse James was a lad that killed many a man. He robbed the Danville train, but that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard has laid poor Jesse in his grave. It was Robert Ford, that dirty little coward. I wonder how he does feel, for he ate of Jesse's bread and he slept in Jesse's bed, then laid poor Jesse in his grave. Poor Jesse had a wife to mourn for his life, 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard has laid poor Jesse in his grave. They rallied out west for to live upon the best. The Fletchers asked their names. They laughed and smiled as they made their reply. We are Frank and Jesse James. It was on a Wednesday night, the moon was shining bright. They robbed the Glendale train. The people they did say, for many miles away, it was robbed by Frank and Jesse James. Poor Jesse had a wife to mourn for his life, 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard has laid poor Jesse in his grave. It was Saturday night, Jesse was at home, talking to his family brave. Robert Ford came along like a thief in the night and laid poor Jesse in his grave. The people held their breath when they heard of Jesse's death and wondered how he ever came to die. It was one of the gang called Little Robert Ford. He shot poor Jesse on the sly. Poor Jesse had a wife to mourn for his life, 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard has laid poor Jesse in his grave, has laid poor Jesse in his grave.
But the chief theme of Western songs of the cowboy era wasn't villainy or violence. It was just plain loneliness. The loneliness of hard-working men who were off by themselves on the trail for months at a time, with nothing but longhorn cattle and alkali dust and the big sky for company. They sang to their cows, but they sang to keep their own spirits up, too. Listen to one of their great songs, Poor Lonesome Cowboy.
I ain't got no father, I ain't got no father, I ain't got no father to buy the clothes I wear. I ain't got no mother, I ain't got no mother, I ain't got no mother to mend the clothes I wear. I ain't got no sister, I ain't got no sister, I ain't got no sister to go and play with me. I ain't got no brother, I ain't got no brother, I ain't got no brother to drive the steers with me. I ain't got no sweetheart. I ain't got no sweetheart. I ain't got no sweetheart to sit and talk with me. I'm a poor lonesome cowboy. I'm a poor lonesome cowboy. I'm a poor lonesome cowboy and a long way from home.
Cowfolk fell in love, too, just like ordinary people. But families kept western and western as the American people settled the continent. But that busted up a lot of friendships and romances, as the Red River Valley tells us so beautifully.
From this valley they say you are going. I shall miss your sweet face and your smile, because you are weary and tired. You are changing your range for a while. I've been thinking a long time, my darling, of the sweet words you never would say. Now alas must my fond hopes all vanish, for they say you are going away. Then come sit here a while ere you leave us. Do not hasten to bid us adieu. Just remember the Red River Valley and the cowboy who loves you so true. I have promised you, darling, that never will words from my lips cause you pain, and my life, it will be yours forever if you only will love me again. Must the past with its joys all be blighted by the future of sorrow and pain? Must the vows that were spoken be slighted? Don't you think you could love me again? Then come sit here a while ere you leave us. Do not hasten to bid us adieu. Just remember the Red River Valley and the cowboy who loves you so true. There never could be such a longing in the heart of a poor cowboy's breast as dwells in the heart you are breaking as I wait in my home in the West. Do you think of the valley you're leaving? Oh, how lonely and dreary it'll be. Do you think of the kind heart you're hurting and the pain you are causing me? Then come sit here a while ere you leave us. Do not hasten to bid us adieu. Just remember the Red River Valley and the cowboy who loves you so true.
Every cowboy looked forward to the town at the end of his trail where he could shave, bathe, drink with his friends, and maybe play a little cards. But sometimes the end of the trail was lots more dangerous than the long, long road of the cattle drive. Listen to the cowboy's lament, which you might know better as the Streets of Laredo.
As I walked out in the streets of Laredo, as I walked out in Laredo one day, I spied a poor cowboy wrapped up in white linen, wrapped up in white linen, as cold as the clay. Oh, beat the drum slowly and play the fife lowly. Play the dead march as you carry me along. Take me to the green valley, there lay the sod o'er me. For I'm a young cowboy, and I know I've done wrong. I see by your outfit that you are a cowboy. These words he did say as I boldly stepped by. Come sit down beside me and hear my sad story. I'm shot in the breast and I know I must die. Get 6 jolly cowboys to carry my coffin. Get 6 pretty maidens to bear up my pall. Put bunches of roses all over my coffin. Put roses to deaden the sods as they fall. Go bring me a cup of cold water to cool my parched lips, the cowboy then said. Before I returned, his soul had departed and gone to the roundup. The cowboy was dead. When I walk out in the streets of Laredo.
Well, the old West is gone forever. The open range where we ran millions of head of cattle is gone, all fenced in. The buffalo are gone. The Indians are almost gone. No more Texas Longhorns today. And today's cowboy is just as likely to ride herd from a helicopter as from a tough bronc of a cow pony. But the songs of the West are with us still, including the all-time favorite, Home on the Range.
Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. How often at night, when the heavens are bright with the light of the glittering stars, have I stood here amazed and asked as I gazed if the glory exceeds that of ours. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Oh, give me a land where the bright diamond sand flows leisurely down the stream, where the graceful white swan goes gliding along like a maid in a heavenly dream. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day.